Hey everyone, and welcome to the channel. I am the d&Ddoge, and I fetch stories of tabletop RPG cringe to present to you in video format. In today's episode of DnD Horror Stories, we have a few tales of games of Dungeons & Dragons, and some other RPGs that will make you have a newfound appreciation for your own games. But before that, you know the drill by now. Let's get some lucky, the like and comment kitty, to boost our spirits. Thanks, Lucky. Awesome job as always. Now, let's get right into the stories. First paid DMing gig doesn't get past session 0. By Reddit user, A Broke Hood Rat. Okay, so I've been sitting on this story for about a month, but after encouragement from some other professional dungeon masters, here I am, learning lessons from the garbage pail of life, so you don't have to. This happened approximately 2 months ago. I was in a Discord server for a local game store when someone reached out in the general chat to ask if there was any DMs in the area that would like to run a game at a tattoo shop in the area. Them's my people, I thought. This will be fun, I thought. You fool. You ignorant fool. So I reached out, and after some back and forth discussion, and a few links to games I've streamed for reference on my actual play YouTube channel, we agree that it'll be a bi-weekly game for 5 people at the business after hours. 4 of them were new players, but I honestly love teaching the game, so I saw it as a super fun opportunity, especially since I haven't played at an actual table since the onset of COVID. Red flag number 1 happened 2 weeks later, when they finally got around to adding me to the group chat, with 11 other people. After voicing my inability to juggle that many people and some hemming and hawing, we agreed that we would limit it to 6, with some rotating bodies, and planned a session 0. I requested that they let me know what time worked best, so that they wouldn't be busy tattooing, working, etc., as I don't want to interrupt their flow, and also have them be able to provide the attention necessary for a first-time player to really hammer out what's going on. I arrive, and there are 2 players who are still tattooing, with others waiting to go. Of the initial 11, only 3 showed up. We ended up talking for about 10 minutes after I sat there doing nothing for 2 hours. One player made a character, and everyone decided they wanted to go to a bar or go home, and split with the agreement. We would figure out the rest over text. Believe it or not, it only got worse. The only player with experience texted the group chat asking if he could play a ranger, because I don't want to abide by a moral compass. Also, I want to be a cannibal. Weird, but okay. I informed the entire group that you can do what you want within reason, but keep in mind that this is a living world, and it will react to your actions as such. And then there were crickets. It was 2 hours later when the next text comes through. Okay, but what if I play a cannibal who only eats bad guys? Also, I want to rape them. I hit them with a disheartening LOL no. But he doubles down that this is a legitimate idea, and the others start sounding off about how hilarious this campaign was going to be. I nope the fuck out. Last week, I get a text from the initial person who organized this whole thing, asking why I haven't answered the group chat in 2 weeks. I inform him that after that exchange, I actually left the group and that they should try to find an alternative DM. He lets me know that it's not a big deal and that they will finish their characters this week, which was 6 weeks later, and we can find a time to play. Maybe go fuck yourself instead. Thus ends my pro DMing career. Well, at least I have a story. Well, I think OP made the right decision in this case, with the way that the group didn't seem to care about wasting OP's time, and then the character concept that was thrown at him without a hint of irony. This group certainly seems like it would have been a nightmare to DM for, as it would have been probably full of that guys and murder hobos. Good on OP for noping out of there before that nightmare could begin. And speaking of OP, he actually has a channel where they run actual plays called Dungeons & Dummies. and they're going to be doing a charity stream in the near future. So definitely go check them out after this video and give them a subscribe. And speaking of subscribing, Nipsey, take it away.
Remember to subscribe and click the bell. I really like this arm.
Thanks, bud. Now let's move on to the next story. Tpkd Enraged by DM after 4 sessions. By Reddit user BlackDune88. My husband and I joined a game in early July online, hoping to do more roleplay. We met with the DM, and they were okay with our characters, a druid and rogue, but we have to do some fixing to meet game rules. The game is described as an elaborate long-term homebrew campaign. Not a problem. We started the game off in battle, and we hit it off with the other players almost immediately. The battle session is fun and invigorating, setting the stage for more, hopefully, equally exciting adventures. The next sessions, however, are filled with long drawn-out storytelling and monologues with little room for rolling or roleplay. One session, we did not roll at all. Later, I'd find out that 2 players almost left after that session, but stayed because they liked the group dynamic and battles so much. Our characters deal with main NPCs, who usually want us to do something for them, or have something we need, but we have to offer something in return. A big quest for a god also would involve getting very costly equipment, and we would have to find a way to fund said equipment. Now, naturally, we roleplay per our character's background. One guy is a Cambion with distrust of gods. One is a rogue thief who is naturally the go-to for collecting money for the quest. This means that there is mild hijinks, like rogues searching rooms in a tavern for goods, or the Cambion being sassy with gods, but no big deal. Eventually, we meet a wizard that we need something from, and the wizard is presented as a shady, possibly evil character who wants us to kill a drow priestess who is after him for selling drow cultural goods. We find the drow, and because the wizard is so skeezy, ask them for their story, and if they might have anything to help us instead of the wizard. Of course, the drow wants to fight, but we don't want to necessarily kill them. We try to bring the priestess and captain alive to the wizard, but things devolve and we have to kill them. The drow priestess has a magic spear that the wizard wants, besides their head. We discover the spear is super powerful and could benefit evil people to do evil things. We kept the spear in a safe location as we still weren't sure about the wizard, and wanted to ask more about his intentions, and possibly bargain for more help for the upcoming campaign. We did bring the wizard the drow's head though. Actions start to unravel from there. The wizard won't answer questions about the spear, and instead paralyzes the whole party and threatens to disintegrate us if we don't give the spear to him. The Cambion offers to get the spear for him, is rebuffed by the wizard, then tries to cast a guiding bolt, and is disintegrated by lasers without a hit point discussion because he used subtle magic, per the DM, and the wizard sends his goons to go get the spear. Our characters offer to buzz off and leave the wizard alone, but ask for him to please bring their friend back. The wizard goes on a long monologue about how he could have been a god, and how this teaches us not to mess with powerful people. At this point, we realize it's the DM telling us not to mess with him, and that this is our punishment. He then disintegrates our remaining party and says that the campaign is over with the possibility of making new characters in the future. Our entire party is shocked at the action. The DM is quiet for a while, then finally asks in the Discord if our characters were just borderline evil money grubbling double-crossers, or if that's how we just play the game. Needless to say, the campaign is cancelled, but the party is still friends, and we are planning our own game. Yeah, it sounded like that DM was one of the railroading variety. And when he saw that the party was veering off of his set path, wanted to punish the players for it by TPKing without any chance of fighting that wizard, as a way to say, you do it my way or we don't play. Thankfully, it sounds like the players took the latter and are starting a game of their own. Let's move on to the next one. DM brought players' actual dead brother into the game as a ghost. by Reddit user MyIndigo76. This happened a few years ago in high school. A senior friend of mine asked me if I wanted to play D&D, and I said yes. There was me and 5 other guys at the table, including the DM. The DM wasn't the most socially mature person, and he often tried to appear smarter and had an attitude of "we're better than everyone else because we play D&D," to the point where it became really cringy at times. He really hated us making jokes or doing goofy stuff at the table. To him, D&D was the best way to tell and experience stories, according to him. To his credit, he did come with a really big world, with a lot of different stories, most of them really anime-like, but still enjoyable for the rest. One of the guys at our table, John, had to leave the game for a few months. His big brother had passed away in a car accident, and he was really close with him. We kept in touch with him though, and offered support however we could. After 2 months, he started coming back to school. The DM decided to continue our old campaign, with most of the focus being on John's character, and him getting the spotlight, though none of us minded that. In the second session, the DM had us explore ruins where John's character's ancestors used to live. We then met a ghost who looked exactly like John's brother, and had the same name, and even told us about how much he loved his family and a little brother. John left the table without saying anything, and the rest of us didn't really know what to say. The DM didn't know his brother, had never met him, but somehow thought it was a good idea to include him 2 months after his death. We all apologized to John and asked the DM to apologize, but he couldn't see what he had done was wrong. He later sent a message to John saying how he was thinking that this would help provide him closure. We all stopped playing after that, and I only recently started playing again on Discord. Yeah, while I'm sure that the DM had good intentions, to do something like that is always in bad taste. I'm sure John was looking to use D&D as a way to forget about things for a little while, and the DM just brought it all back up. I don't blame John one bit for just up and leaving right then and there. And for the DM to refuse to apologize after the other player said how messed up that was, just shows what kind of person he was. I don't blame any of the other players for not going back to that game after that either. Anyway, let's move on. Player quits because odds are not good enough, by Reddit user Ander the Reckoning. Context: some years ago, I answered an ad for a Warhammer fantasy roleplay game online. Me, being a huge Warhammer nerd and knowing the setting better than my own backside, immediately applied. So this was a game that happened with people I had never met before, and we were playing through Roll20. The cast is not that important. Let it just be known that there were 4 players, which I will refer to by their races: Elf, Dwarf, me, and Wizard, who is the protagonist of this merry little story, and acquaintance with the GM. Now, before we start, I need to tell you that Wizard had some kind of unspecified condition. I never asked details. He was extremely socially awkward, but also incredibly smart when concerning numbers. He had this habit of mentally calculating odds of success before each roll. If the odds were not good enough, he would not take an action. Impressive, absolutely, but also terribly grating when you're fighting goblins or climbing a wall, and he would spend 10 minutes thinking and then say something on the line of, "The odds are not good enough, I do nothing." The smart among you already know where this is going. So, 3 sessions in, our merry party is running away from a horde of greenskins. Normally, we would stand and fight, but those buggers tend to charge at you 5 to 1, and this is not D&D, so a single jab with a stick can end you. So we are running, and end up on a bridge, over a fast-flowing river. But look, the bridge has collapsed at its center, and now a wide gap sits between us and safety. We have little time to decide what to do, but the next move is clear. We have to jump. The elf goes first, and he, being an elf, elves have pretty OP stats in WFRP, FYI, easily passes the skill check. Next goes the dwarf, after the usual Nobody tosses a dwarf shenanigans. He fails his roll, but help from the elf on the other side allows him to get to safety. Next, the wizard. We wanted to let him go first, but he refused because he needed a moment. Now, his time has come. Either jump or get eaten by orcs. He muses over it for a few seconds, and then, with a tone as flat as a table, says, "The odds are not good enough. I do nothing." We are speechless. We assumed that, faced with either action or destruction, he would act. Oh, what fools we were. When we press the fact that if he does nothing, his character will most certainly die, the wizard still states that the odds are too low to be acceptable, and he'd die anyway. We go back and forth for a while, enough for the fun to be spoiled and the session to come to a halt. Then, maybe at the fault on my part, I lose my temper. Me. GM, I toss the wizard. Wizard. What? You can't do that. I don't want to jump. I can't make it. Me. I grapple the wizard and try to throw him over the bridge. Can I do that, GM? GM. I don't know. Go for it. We roll for grapple. Now, I admit, I got very lucky at Chargan, because I rolled very good stats for my acolyte, and since I wanted to advance the warrior priest, my strength was pretty high. Wizard, on the other hand, had very high mental stats, but very poor physical ones, so obviously I win the roll. After that, despite Wizard's protest that there is no way it'll work, I yeet his character on the other side of the bridge. He's forced to roll a skill check, which he refuses to do, so the GM rolls for him. He succeeds, and more than that, the roll was so good he would have succeeded even without my or the elf's help. I immediately jump behind him and barely make it. As soon as we land, the dwarf, being a stonkingly strong miner with a background as a mason, strikes a weak point on the bridge with his pickaxe, causing some of it to fall into the river below and widening the gap enough that the orcs could not cross as we did. Everyone is happy. Virtual high fives are given all around. Except for Wizard, who had muted himself immediately after he crossed the bridge. Right after the GM decides to call it a night, he unmutes himself and states, "This game is stupid," and leaves the group. Days later, I learned from GM that Wizard was very upset with the fact that, statistically, he shouldn't have been able to cross that bridge, and that we robbed him of player agency by forcing him to do so. Basically, he was furious that we acted in a suboptimal way, in his view, and could not accept the fact that the game rewarded us for it. The game continued for a while, but quickly petered out since it left a bad taste in everyone's mouth. I still have no idea what to make out of this experience. It feels like a fever dream every time I think about it. Edit. Since some people are questioning the why choose death instead of going with the suboptimal choice, I don't really know. But my idea is that in his reasoning, Wizard never considered the fact that if he didn't jump the bridge, he would die. I don't think he could see, or wanted to see, the correlation between the horde chasing us and the obstacle posed by the broken bridge. Honestly, it sounds like that player may have had some sort of neurodivergency of some kind, and is probably on the spectrum. The way he would calculate numbers in his head for the odds, then rigidly not take a chance when the odds weren't good enough to jump over the gap, even though his character would likely die, kind of paints that picture. I honestly can't think of a solution here that would have ended any other way than that player leaving the game. Maybe this type of game just wasn't for this player. Though, I wonder, how would have you handled the situation? Let's move on. DM probably does not like that my character is a werewolf. By Reddit user 2fast2furious123. So, the story goes something like this. Our party was commissioned to hunt some wild beasts that appeared in the forest and were approaching a village tonight and attacking animals. It turned out that there were werewolves in the forest. We managed to kill them, but one of them managed to bite my character. I failed my save, and now my character was infected with lycanthropy. Our DM told me that I can easily cure myself of it in one of the temples somewhere in the mountains, but it did not bother me that much. I considered it quite an interesting development of my hero. Also, not to talk too much about my character, but he would not want to get rid of it himself. Besides, I thought, it can add some interesting situations to the campaign, and looking at what happened later, I was not wrong. But since then, from the moment when I decided that I didn't want my character to get rid of the curse, we started to suffer bad luck. Every now and then, we came across a group of werewolf hunters, which we had never known before and had never heard of existing before. And now suddenly, there are a whole lot of them here. And each time, these people somehow knew that my character was a werewolf. They were just appearing out of nowhere and attacking us by surprise, and kept focusing their attacks on me, even though my friends were stabbing them in the back with swords and axes. Every now and then, someone, somehow, discovered that my character is a werewolf. I am talking about situations such as, a hunter noticed that my hero smells like fur, so he immediately knows that it's a werewolf and is attacking us. A traveler notices it in the eyes of my hero and also becomes aggressive. An ordinary small shop has an artifact in the cabinet that detects lycanthropes, and it activates as soon as I cross the threshold of the store. The city guards have a dog that detects that I am a lycanthrope, and somehow alerts the guards about it, and I have to leave the city. Some random wizard randomly uses some spell that detects that I am a werewolf. Basically, most of those ended up with my character being kicked out of some place, or just straight up, a fight was started. Then the first full moon came, and the DM warned us that my group will have to kill me, that I will change and attack them, and they cannot leave me here for the night, because I will track them down. So our wizard put me to sleep, and DM wasn't happy with it. Also, from now on, almost every enemy we fought, even simple thugs, had silver weapons. They never had it before, but they have it now. In the last few sessions, the DM more and more, with the use of the story, pushes us towards the mountains, where there, accidentally, is one of the temples where I can heal my character. Something tells me that he's planning some shenanigans. Also, I was asking him out of the game if there's any problem with my character being a werewolf, and he said, not really. Well, it kinda sounds like that DM was trying to use OP's character becoming a werewolf as a plot hook for the party to go into the mountains, and OP and his character being okay with being a werewolf threw a wrench into his plans. Thus why he's putting so much effort into making life a living hell for OP's character, in order to get OP in line with heading to the mountains to cure his character. I would say bring up all the points that you did in this story to your DM, and see if something can be done to make it a better experience for you both. After all, communication is a key component in any tabletop RPG. And hopefully all of this can be cleared up, and everyone can move on and enjoy your campaign. Anyway, that's all we have for today. If you have a story that you would like to be shared on the channel, be sure to comment it below on the d&Ddoge subreddit, or even feel free to contact me on Twitter. As always, I appreciate all of you, and Alice has something to say. Until next time.